Hello everybody. As you can gather, back in the early days when Quentin Tarantino wasn't a famous director, he used to work in a video store as his young youth. Like I was young once upon a time, I used to rent videos on a Saturday at my local video shop. Why on a Saturday? Because on a Sunday the store was shut, and that means I could keep them videos for an extra day and return them on a Monday. So that is how I worked it out. So the magic of bringing that Betamax tape back home, what I've rented this movie, I don't really know nothing about it. So put it in my machine. The first thing you got was you were swamped by literally loads and loads of movie trailers, and that just got the magic going, because the more older the video was, the cheaper it was the film, and you got all these strange titles, and this movie kept on appearing a lot, this movie trailer, and the best way to do it is actually play that trailer for you.
I'm a hired hand, that's all. There's nothing wrong with that.
My name is Michael Bartos.
The country's ready to blow.
All we need is a match.
Perhaps a revolution does need a martyr. Murder, blood, and paranoia are going to make fine company where you're going. 'Cause ladies, you're going to hell. From me to Margaret Thatcher, you managed to screw up history.
I've been convicted of murder, conspiracy, and treason.
Girls all have brand new IDs.
You are officially Cecil Thornton.
I was told you were a professional, Mr. Ryan. What the hell are you doing risking your cover like this?
Ladies and gentlemen, give you Mr. Cecil Thornton.
Underneath all this, you do care, don't you? I love this country. You love no one.
This little picture went to Mark. This little piggy stayed at home.
Nothing is perfect when women are involved.
So when the trailer's finished, the movie will start just the same as cinemas do, but unfortunately cinemas do not pause the movie for you when you go to the toilet. But on video, you could stop it anytime you want, even answering the door for the takeaway man, because you always get a takeaway. So, did you get the inspiration of that trailer of Quentin Tarantino's Glorious Bastards? Because he got the inspiration of another famous movie. Yes, 1967, The Dirty Dozen. You're not too sure? Here's a trailer.
Major Reisman, you are ordered by Allied Command to select 12 general prisoners convicted by courts martial and sentenced to be executed or serve lengthy prison terms for murder, rape, robbery, and other crimes of violence. And you will deliver them secretly behind enemy lines in France to undertake a mission of sabotage that could change the course of the war. The 12 men will be known as the Dirty Dozen.
Lee Marvin as Major John Reisman.
There's a little of Major Reisman in every man, says Marvin. Tough and unyielding, yet compassionate. I think it's the best role I've ever been asked to play.
You've all volunteered for a mission which gives you just 3 ways to go. Either you can follow up in training and be shipped back here for immediate execution of sentence, or you can follow up in combat, in which case I will personally blow your brains out, or you can do as you're told, in which case you might just get by.
Now you hold it right there. This war was not started for your private gratification, and you can be damn sure that this army isn't being run for your personal convenience either.
Ernest Borgnine as General Warden.
I'm tired of seeing generals portrayed as desk-bound pen pushers, says Borgnine. So I've played Warden as a rough professional soldier.
Robert Ryan as Colonel Everett Dasher Breed.
There were officers like Breed, says Ryan, who could never suffer the rules broken or even bend a little.
Major Reisman's compliments, sir. You prefer to be captured or destroyed?
Jimmy Brown as Napoleon Jefferson.
Jefferson is any man fighting for recognition against the odds, says Brown. I think I understand him pretty well.
John Cassavetes as Victor Franco.
Says Cassavetes. Franco is a petty hoodlum forced to heroism by circumstances beyond his control.
We go on that mission, we all get killed. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Trini Lopez as Jimenez.
He's crawling with hate.
Charles Bronson as Vladislav.
The last guy in the world you'd expect to be a hero.
Telly Savalas as Archer Maggot.
Maggot is a maniac, says Savalas. His religious fanaticism can never be moderated or quelled. It is a constant danger.
Clint Walker as Samson Posey.
An Indian with war paint smeared on his soul. Train them. Excite them. Arm them.
And turn them loose on the Nazi High Command.
So there was many sequels being made for TV, plenty. I mean, Telly Savalas actually starred in these movies, even he got killed in the original first one. But all this was based on real events of the Filthy 13. Even Lee Martin starred in the sequel.
And this is the explosive sequel you've been waiting for.
What are we supposed to do? Kill a German general? It seems to me I heard this song before.
Lee Marvin leads an even dirtier dozen of criminals on the deadliest mission of them all.
Now, what do you think, Sergeant? I think the first chance the prisoners get, they're going to shoot the major in the back.
Ernest Borgnine, Richard Jackal, and Lee Marvin return for more wartime action in The Dirty Dozen Next Mission.
So we've experienced a bit what it was like when you hired a video, all them trailers. But believe it or not, The Dirty Dozen did have a TV series. I mean, the movie we're talking about, that Hired to Kill, was like a mixture of the Dirty Dozen TV series and the series Cover Up as well. Maybe that might give the inspiration for Quentin Tarantino to think of the idea of Fox Force 5.
Heard you did a pilot.
That was my 15 minutes.
What was it?
It
It was a show about a team of female secret agents called Fox Force 5.
What?
Fox Force 5. Fox as in we're a bunch of foxy chicks. Force as in we're a force to be reckoned with. And 5 as in there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. There was a blonde one, Somerset O'Neill. She was a leader. The Japanese fox was a kung fu master. The black girl was a demolition expert. French fox's speciality was sex.
What was your special?
Knives. Character I played, Raven McCoy. Her background was she grew up raised by circus performers. According to the show, she was the deadliest woman in the world with a knife. And she knew a zillion old jokes. Her grandfather, an old vaudevillian, taught her. And if we would have got picked up, it would have worked in a gimmick where every show I would have told another joke.
You know any of them old jokes?
Well, I only got the chance to say one because we only did one show.
Tell me.
It's corny.
Don't be that way, tell me.
Nah, you wouldn't like it and I'd be embarrassed.
You told like 50 million people, and you can't tell me? I promise I won't laugh.
That's what I'm afraid of, Vince.
That's not what I meant, you know it.
Now, I'm definitely not going to tell you because it's been built up too much.
What a jip.
So the movie Hired to Kill could have been one of them movies give the inspiration for Quentin Tarantino to think of the Fox Force 5 in his film Pulp Fiction, but maybe a possibility. But the thing is, with Hired to Kill, it's got a famous actor what was in the original 1967's Dirty Dozen movie, as you may notice.
George Kennedy, big famous actor, well known, starting off in westerns and then the most popular ones, them 70s disaster movies, mostly, the airport movies. But I love the Concorde one, especially when he opens a sliding window and sticks his hand out with a flare gun to shoot at a heat-seeking missile. If you haven't seen it, it's very funny, very good. But like this movie is very interesting because he's in this, because he wasn't just a fuddy-duddy wanting actors what starred like a Cool Man Luke and he'd win an Oscar. I mean, he was in Thunder and Lightfoot. He played a hard man bank robber and get eaten by Doberman pinchers. He played a lot of roles like in Dallas, but a lot of TV movies as well, a lot of them. But yes, he starred in quite a lot of movies. Sadly, he died just at nearly the age of 90 back in 2016, I think. Hopefully I'm right, but yeah. So, yeah, all this work he did, he's in this movie. One of the big actors in it. Completely, yeah.
So what other famous actors are in this movie?
Brian Thompson. What other TVs or movies do they remember him in? Terminator, the first one, where Arnold Schwarzenegger rips his heart out. Not Bill Paxton, but there's other famous ones like Fright Night 2 and other movies like Mortal Kombat 2, the most popular one with Sylvester Stallone. In Cobra, he was the main villain, he was the slasher, and all that lot. But he's been in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, season 1 he was a vampire. Season 2 he played this mysterious creature called the Judge and gets blown up by a bazooka. X-Files, Star Trek. The guy has got a very familiar voice, and obviously with his face, you can't miss it. You're always going to recognise, Brian Thompson, whatever he's in. But this movie, as we all know, he is actually the main star, and You may think, you know, later on in the movie, he wears a tuxedo and all that, what you'd be thinking when he's going infiltrating, spying and sneaking into people's offices and looking through all their personal stuff. It's like a rip-off of James Bond. Maybe he could have promoted himself as James Bond. But this film, well, is hired to kill. Like the title says, it gives it all away. Especially the title, it does. So, what happens in the movie? Well, as we all know, that I'm not going to be going saying who's directed what or who's directed music or anything, because you can read it on the screen. Because it's one of them movies what starts off as it's old-fashioned, just titles coming up on a black background, and there's nothing from behind it showing you, you know, any images or anything. It's just in your face, there to read, and then the film starts. And it's quite odd and strange. At first, when I wanted to see the film, I mean, the trailer, as we all seen, that it gives you the impression of, to me, it started off like a comedy. You know, you see this bit, a phone ringing, he shoots it, man appears and tells him more or less, yeah, he's going on a mission. So this is the bit of the plot of the film where it's going to tell us the plot of his mission, and he has to infiltrate to be a fashion designer or photographer, or technically the typical stereotype for the late 80s to the beginning 90s, that he has to be a bit, you know, a bit like camp, or most people may think of being homosexual, gay or something, but it's just a typical stereotype that he's meant to be because you're in this profession of with models and all that lot, that you've got to be this way out. Me babbling on about this, giving so much about the movie away, yes, because it is very bizarre, because you won't think of always acting with Brian Thompson that he would have played a type of this part, but we all know it's got another famous actor, as we're just seeing, and but yeah, we've got Oliver Reed. Maybe there's been a lot of influence in this movie, so yeah.
So Hired to Kill has Oliver Reed. My local video shop didn't have this movie because they were a bit worried of the reputation of Oliver, maybe, and this is why I couldn't hire it at the time. And you may understand if we explain a bit about our British actor Oliver.
Robert Oliver Reed was born in Wimbledon in 1938. Within a year of his birth, his parents split up. It was the start of a severely disrupted childhood. In all, he went to 13 schools and sunk to the bottom of the class at every one. He left school an O-level dropout and was drafted into national service. On his return to Civvy Street in 1958, Reed and his elder brother David went looking for work. Reed moved into film extra work. Acting was in his blood. His uncle, Sir Carroll Reed, was a famous film director, and his grandfather had founded the drama school, RADA. But Reed had no time for formal training. Instead, he used a variation on the casting couch. Reed's first speaking part was in a 1960 comedy thriller. It was a surprising role and an unconvincing performance for a man later notorious for his views on what he called buffness. Soon, bit parts turned into starring roles, albeit as monsters for Hammer Horror. Reed specialized in grunting and looking threatening. When he wasn't covered in hair, Reed had the right face at the right time. The late 50s and 60s saw an explosion in the youth market. Young people had money to spend and wanted films which reflected their generation. In 1964, a young director was looking for a star for his film The System, a tale of sexual promiscuity by the seaside. He saw in Reed the perfect combination of sex and danger to play the leading role. Michael Winner used Reed's screen magnetism right at the top of the film. At the beginning of his career, Reed seemed able to keep drinking and work separate. Seemingly immune from hangovers, he was never late on set, and he always knew his lines. Nonetheless, it was a drunken incident that nearly ruined his career in 1964. One night in April, Reed was attacked in the Crazy Elephant nightclub in London's West End. Trouble began when Reed got into a war of words with a group of men at the bar. He ended up telling them to go play with themselves. The gashes on the side of Reed's face needed 36 stitches. It put his career in jeopardy. He was turned down for a succession of lead roles. Then, out of the blue, Reed was called for an audition for the role of composer Debussy for a prestigious BBC arts series. On the success of Debussy, Reed's career took off. The world was his oyster, but he chose Wimbledon. This respectable suburb of London had been his boyhood home. Here Reed attempted to create a sense of security that he'd never known as a child by surrounding himself with friends and family. In 1959, he'd fallen for a model, Kate Byrne. Within a year, they married and they had a son. By the end of the 1960s, Reed was a household name with films like Oliver, The Jokers, and Hannibal Brooks behind him. And when he hit the big time, he insisted that friends like Dobbo shared the high life with him. He had made cinema history by being Britain's first full-frontal male nude in Ken Russell's film Women in Love. Reed performed the build-up to the wrestling scene as if he relished the idea of a naked grapple. In fact, he and Bates were both extremely reluctant. The problem was male pride. The issue was whose penis was the biggest, and that was only resolved in the pub the night before filming. The gusto with which they threw themselves into their naked wrestling belied their initial reluctance and helped to create one of British cinema's most memorable scenes. By 1969, Reed's marriage was on the rocks, not because of his drinking, but because of another woman. It started an affair with a dancer, Jackie Darrell, who he'd met on a film set. When she became pregnant, he secretly installed her in a flat. It did not remain secret for long. In the early 70s, when Reed appeared on Parkinson, he was at the pinnacle of his career.
He is a gothic hero in the living, lusting flesh. He smoulders a mobile furnace.
In those days, Reed was an impeccable chat show guest. Reed chose Jackie. 2 years later, in 1971, they moved, with their daughter Sarah, to the country. His work with Ken Russell had brought critical acclaim. Tough man action roles brought him millionaire status, and a house to match. Broom Hall in Surrey was a Victorian country house with 50 acres of land. It cost him £85,000, a fortune then, and it was virtually derelict. The new Lord and Lady of Broom Hall set to work renovating their stately home, supervising up to 30 workmen paid full-time for years. As often as not, Reed ordered them to down tools in order to down drinks. The most legendary drinking session was the visit paid by 45 rugby players on a stag night. The party downed 32 bottles of scotch, 17 of gin, and 50 gallons of beer. Reed, who by now had developed a taste for showing off his tackle, led the boys in a bollock-naked striptease. somehow, despite the constant drinking, work got done. Reed insisted that the place was restored in perfect period detail. It took 8 years and cost a fortune. But his real pride and joy was the garden, which he and Dobbo restored to its full Victorian glory. By the time he made The Three Musketeers in 1973, Hollywood producers were offering Reed plum roles in films like Jaws and The Sting. By the time Valerie Singleton paid Reed a visit, Broom Hall had become a millstone around his neck. To pay for its upkeep, he was taking virtually any part going, most of them instantly forgettable. Towards the end of the 70s, Reed's long-term partner Jackie Darrell found life in Broom Hall increasingly difficult to cope with. Reed sold Broom Hall within a month of Jackie Darrell leaving. His contemporaries Sean Connery and Michael Caine had already made the move to America, but Reed, the biggest fish in Britain, wouldn't cross the pond. In 1986, Reed bought a home in Guernsey, where he and Josephine spent 6 months a year for the rest of the decade to avoid tax. As his film career stalled and his ambition waned, Reed's drinking became heavier. Close friends knew what to expect. In his 1979 autobiography, he wrote, "I like women in their place. I like them on their knees in the kitchen. In return, I feed them, wine them, make them laugh, and give them a punch on the nose when they need it." He wasn't entirely joking. But his career as a hellraiser really took off. Boozing, brawling, and his personal speciality, trouser dropping to reveal what he called his mighty mallet. In 1991, Reed appeared on Channel 4's open-ended intellectual forum to give his perspective on male violence. He was drinking from the outset.
The ultimate thing is...
The discussion turned to women's motivation for abortions. Reed became increasingly aggressive and incoherent.
No bullshit, it's all down to whether or not she wants to get shafted.
In 1993, Oliver and Josephine moved to the south coast of Ireland, and life appeared to take on a different pace as Reed passed 50. For the last few years, Reed had barely worked when top Hollywood director Ridley Scott called out of the blue. He wanted Reed to come to Malta to play a fading strongman in his new film Gladiator. Reed took the job and typically found the most English bar on the island, a pub called, The Pub. On Sunday, May the 2nd, he had the day off filming. He was relaxing in the pub with his wife and visiting sailors. Reed was in high spirits. He'd started drinking at 10 and, according to one account, by 2 o'clock he had drunk 12 double shots of rum, 8 bottles of lager and half a bottle of whiskey. He'd also been arm wrestling. He'd taken on and beaten a number of challengers. But the strain on his heart proved too much. Reed was brought back to Ireland for the funeral. Few celebrities turned up, but thousands of ordinary people came to pay their respects.
One memory I had of Oliver Reed was having me sent to bed early because he was on Michael Aspel's show. Who is Michael Aspel? Well, this is him.
Despite strong protest to the police and the RSPCA, Twinkle is still on the loose. Michael Aspel, BBC, London.
If you wasn't too sure what that was about, it was about a giant kitten. But we want to get on about the interview with Oliver Reed with Michael Aspel.
My next guest is an actor who has kept audiences on the edge of their seats, directors on... He was always a good booking, but on this particular occasion, we'd had word from the researcher who was travelling with him. We've stopped again and was drinking large quantities of whatever, but nothing prepared us quite for what the apparition that lurched onto the set. Ladies and gentlemen, Oliver Reed. And I thought, how am I actually going to handle this? Because one thing I knew I couldn't do was take the mickey. Do you know, Lauren? I can't do that. because he was incapacitated. It may have been his fault, but he was vulnerable. But at the same time, I was excited and pleased because I knew this was going to be great television. To be cruel about it, that was what we were there for.
I was known as a wild one.
To get a general idea of Oliver Reed doing his interviews, we'll show you a few clips.
I've had a lot of remarks made about me being a misogynist and being a chauvinist pig and being whatever it is. But in actual fact, I adore them. That's why they take the abuse that I give them. And if I make a comment that a woman should be... I was on a chat show in America, and I was on with Shelley Winters, who never keeps her mouth shut at all. Before I went on the show, the producers said, listen, she's probably going to talk all the time, so, tell her to be quiet if you want to. So I came on to the show, Russell Harty started to speak to me, and I said, and immediately Shelley Winters, I'd only just sat down on the chair, started to speak. I said, madam, would you please be quiet? I paid you the courtesy of listening to you when I was in the green room just now. Would you please pay me the courtesy of being quiet while I'm talking? Now, it seems to be fairly simple. You forget the chauvinist big bit. And so she interrupted again. I told her to be quiet again. Then she had to leave, and she got off the show. She came back a minute later with a huge great jug of bourbon and water. And I stood up, being a gentleman. She poured it straight over my head, and I just got a brand new suit on. I think that basically women are very happy in the kitchen simply because it means that they're feeding their children and looking after their man. I think that the time arises. When a woman is put out to work. And I think then when she comes back and says, oh, I've had a heavy day, and the husband arrives at the same time, that's a bad deal, because then they're going to fight who's going to cook and who's going to wash up. I think that a woman's place is looking after her man and her children, and I think a man's place is to look after her, to protect her, and provide her with a little warmth. I really do believe you have the whole country contract, huh? Yeah, but it's fairly sweet. I mean, the women's liberationists, if they thought about that. Shh. Quiet, woman. Women's liberationists. I didn't know what to say, so I said absolutely nothing. I was a stiff upper lip, and the audience started clapping and saying it was on her side. I sat down and I said, the one extraordinary thing about women's lips is that they're so very unpredictable. And the audience then laughed the other way, and I only got one letter in the States, saying that I was rude to her. What it was, of course, is a giggle. It's a giggle. She's a showman and I'm a showman, and that's our business.
So apart from the fact that you don't like women who talk too much and you don't like women who waste bourbon, what are the essential qualities?
I don't think that I'm allowed to give away the secrets now, because I love women that are thick, and I like women that are slim, and I like women that are fat, and I like people that are tall and women that are small. And I don't want to ostracize myself from one party or another, because I don't know where I might get lucky.
You strike me.
Nobody will want to employ me anyway, and so that'll be a deal.
Well, I reckon that'll be the day, but anyway, the very best of luck, and who knows, maybe we'll see you a resident here in Guernsey. Again. Mr. Reed, thank you.
So you can gather our hero Ryan is going on a mission, and our main bad guy is obviously who I've been all about, Oliver Reed.
This is Michael Bartos. He's the chief of intelligence and security. On the one hand, he's a patron of the arts. On the other, he is the high priest of the local death squads. In a land filled with poverty, he lives like a king. Naturally, he enjoys the status quo. We want it changed. We?
So you'd be thinking to yourself, Oliver Reed in charge of a country? What would he do with it?
The colonel sucked up all of the cash and bankrupt the country within 3 years. Now they want to sell out and go to bed with the competition.
Maybe the competition may want to create a pub for Oliver. Anyhow, they have to come out with some form of plan and what type of people they need to send in.
You also have to pay for a few good men. You won't need any men. You and your professionals wouldn't stand a chance of getting inside of a country with security as tough as theirs. be dead before you sign the hotel register. What you need are a few good women. I don't get the joke. The computer checked out 2,442 possible alternatives. The only one that has a chance.
So they finalise everything with computers, and Brian more or less puts himself in the role of he says this.
You want me to be some faggot designer?
He said it.
Faggot. Yes.
So, as we all know, that he's taking on the deal. Well, he's been roped in to take the deal because, George Kennedy isn't having it, So, there's a bit of a sarcastic joke where he says, drive to it. And then we get footage of the Land Rover driving. And then it's with these two ladies. Now, they have more or less been offered to him. One he's worked with, and one knows the area where they're going to invade. Because I haven't really picked up on what country it actually is. We all know it's a little small country that everybody likes to wipe their bottoms with, according to, this.
The country we're talking about is tiny and insignificant.
Very interesting.
I've heard people on the Senate call it a shithouse, and justifiably so. A number of countries, ours included, have washed their rear ends there on occasion.
So we gather that Ryan's had a previous relationship with this woman, Sheila.
Hey, I looked for you for 3 years. Nobody knew if you were dead or alive.
I was dead, Sheila.
I took this job only because you were involved.
This time you're getting paid. You mess up, I'll cancel your check, or break your neck, or both.
So I get the impression they had a loving relationship. I mean, the strangest thing about Ryan's comments is when he mentions about Margaret Thatcher, the British Prime Minister at the time. Definitely something to do with Oliver Reed, this.
Nothing is perfect when women are involved.
It's probably the worst chauvinistic dribble I've ever heard.
For me, to Margaret Thatcher, you've managed to screw up history.
So, the first woman they get out of the prison, because we all mentioned the Dirty Dozen, that they go to Istanbul, Turkey, and you see the typical stereotype of prisoners in prison in Turkey, that they all arm wrestle, and they get these nice visits in the prison yard, and
they can't stay forever. When they leave,
she gets offered, you get released. And the prison officer actually threatens to do this to her certain body parts.
Come to my room and I'll put out my cigarette on your nipples.
Well, yeah, it's easy going, and they get that. As we've seen a trailer, she's a cigar chewing demolition expert. Then we go to St. Quentin, California.
So you may be wondering who these people are working for. Is it the CIA?
Am I talking to one man or a company?
If you're talking about the CIA, the answer is no. It's far beyond their scope.
We've let them run errands for us every once in a while, but I find them clumsy and anachronistic. Besides, our group has no political motives.
So who are these people who can get these ladies out of prison?
The CIA is willing to lose your file.
You're going to forget that I used to work for them, that I did their dirty work. I did 13 contracts in 2 years, and they set me up for this because I refused to do old man's monopoly. You're going to lose all that too.
So we get our knife expert, and she's immune, and they explain her background.
How good is she?
Nobody's better with a blade. Last year, 3 Soviet soldiers beat her parents to death. And they raped her, shot her, and left her for dead.
And it looks like she's obviously in a mental home or whatever, in one of them facilities. And then our next lady is obviously, she's in the fashion thing. And she's been blackmailed to do the job.
Now, I could be wrong, but I believe it was Rio, September 87. Your face, dialogue coach, and a clean American accent, and a new identity.
How much do you want?
I'm a pushover. I'll settle for your life. We need you for a job, that's all.
So, they're at the dinner table, and he's discussing about how much money and all that lot. And he comes out with this famous
I hope to God that
classic
when the time comes and I
line.
need those skills, you don't let me down. If you do, you won't be coming back. I'm your life insurance. I'm also holding your money, because ladies, this job is COD. And one more thing, I don't like working with women.
So we're going to get a homage of, because it is a 1989 movie, not a 90s movie, but 80s, so it's an 80s movie. So you get a homage of them all training, as it's all typical, shooting machine guns, going under machine gun fire, doing press-ups, applying lipstick on, how to fasten a tie. It is covert, proper, secret mission. I mean, it is. And this goes on for quite a while, but it speeds the movie up for us to, right, they're all got trained up, and it's straight away into the action of their mission.
So you'd be thinking the mission is simply to assassinate Oliver Reed's character. But even if he gets assassinated, somebody needs to take over this country. Well, that is already being set up for him. There is a character they need to actually find in this strange place called Cyprus. To me, it sounds like the same. So,
To the people of Cyprus, he's known as the Brother. He's a stubborn, extremely intelligent man. He ranges from liberal to hardcore leftist. I want to put him away 15 years ago. They can't kill him and they can't let him out. Either way leads to revolution.
so their main purpose is to find that old man.
You think an old man can lead a revolution? Properly handled, yes. And what if I'm not interested?
So after the homage, we've putting Brill cream on. Well, we get somebody else to do that for him. But yeah, and then we get our phone call. He don't shoot the phone this time, but yeah, the mission starts in a weird place called Cyprus. We see images of a, dangerous wildlife like pigeons. I mean, dangerous. But we get a few cars skidding about, and then we get this scene where a person gets shot and a stunt dummy, it looked like. Yeah, I think it was a dummy. So, and that's all we get. So we're wondering, what was that about? Well, you'd be thinking, they're going to make some contacts over there, and they've been sussed and figured out. Maybe they've been assassinated, and you're all thinking, oh no, the mission isn't going that smoothly, is it already?
To understand what's going on, maybe I'll have to repeat this.
So we see some footage of Cyprus with dangerous wildlife, pigeons, and then a couple of cars come screeching to a halt, shoot a guy, we see a dummy fall to its death, but it's a dummy. Oh, okay.
More complications happen on the mission.
So the character Oliver Reed is a little bit suspicious on our character Brian. Yes. So what he does is actually get his girlfriend and starts doing his typical Oliver Reed, talking about ladies, and this is how he does it. Well, I have to censor some of it because there's nudity, as Oliver Reed actually exposes her breasts to expose our character. Is he gay? Well, this is where you get the famous trailer bit where he actually kisses Oliver Reed. Very, funny really. So, they're off on their mission now. They're off to see their resistance.
But they can't find the resistance without finding the contact. But unfortunately, all the group of ladies are having catty arguments about anal sex.
So the ever-elusive Cecil Thornton, who would not be interviewed on camera, gave Psycho its biggest season.
Sorry, dear love. Want to chat? Knock it off, CB.
Yeah, me well, okay? I like her.
One wrong move, you'll have Frank on her ass.
Might be interesting. Perverse, but interesting.
So you can tell by the actress's dialogue, they're being written by a man, because why would they talk about orgasms?
So they're there, and we get footage of them, all the ladies at a swimming pool, and you hear this cattiness of argument on about orgasms.
You know what I think? I think you're a frigid bitch who's probably never had an orgasm in her life.
Honey, you wouldn't know an orgasm if it landed in your face.
Ladies, you're behaving like trashy tarts in a hair salon.
How about you, Dad? How would you rate Ryan?
I'm afraid I don't know him that well.
Well, come on,
Yes.
fess up. I mean, you must have had at least one quickie with him, right? Why else would he have brought you along if you weren't really good at quickies?
Very rude, maybe typical stereotype of the late 80s to the early 90s, that all a group of ladies of about half a dozen are always going to be catty against each other. So they're on a mission, and they are having their whining and dining undercover, and Oliver Reed drops a big one. His girlfriend is whispering sweet nothings in his ear. No, she's actually asking, she is a model herself, and she wants to join the team. So she's in the group of them, and they have to be very cautious to operate round her and all that lot. But there's been no contact, and lucky enough, Brian Thompson puts his James Bond outfit on. Can't go and blur it. Brian Thompson is more or less looking like James Bond, and he goes on his mission to go snooping, and we get this lovely shot of him sneaking about in his tuxedo, but he's been followed by main security and the extra model, and they actually get him and catch him snooping in the office. But spoiler alert, this happens. She is the contact he's been waiting for. So all that tail, the dummy falling and all that lot, who cares about that person? We'll just mess leg. So,
Can we help you, Mr. Thornton?
This isn't the bathroom, is it?
It's Mr. Bartow's private study. Usually guarded. And very dangerous for intruders.
So what are you gonna do? Shoot me?
You underestimate Bartos, Mr. Ryan. He may be a megalomaniac, but he's not a fool. He would never keep vital secrets in such an obvious place. I was the first to look.
You're Thomas's contact?
I was told you were a professional.
so you get all that as he's explains all that. Well, we've got our plot now. It's going now. They're all allied up, and we're expecting one of these ladies is going to mess this mission up, aren't they? Or there's something a bit suspicious about one of them, maybe. More spoilers.
Oh no!
Apologies for the spoiler.
Oh no!
So now they know their contact is. So you'd be thinking, where will the contact take them? To the freedom fighters and all that lot? No, they take them to a fortune teller. But obviously it's makes sense. And they discussed the plan of actually thinking, well, they're all models, you know, we need a nice photogenic place to take photographs, so ask where to, you know, go where we can meet the resistance, and they all get escorted by the guards and stuff, and yeah, it ain't making sense now, is it?
Well, I'm not sure that will be sufficient. Mr. Thornton, if you don't mind too much, I should like to send some hand-picked men with you, since they know the area well and you will be staying in a town nearby.
So Ryan comes out with the information to the ladies how professional these guards are.
Listen up. Don't underestimate these guys. They're no ordinary soldiers. They're professional killers, every one of them.
So they're on their way on another Land Rover, and as he explains about their escorts, they're professional killers. Ooh. And we find out how good they are when they all go to the caves and they're taking photographs, and the ladies start trying to kill them all, and we find out that one guy survives and he kills that famous blonde lady, and he's a professional soldier. He just starts shooting randomly at things and runs out of bullets, and well, he's a professional soldier, he gets killed. Not that professional, is he? So it drags on a little bit.
So we get emotional scene now with one of the characters dead.
Sheila! Sheila!
So he's a professional soldier, and he runs out of bullets. I mean, that's how good he is. Gets killed. But obviously, we've got this long scene where they manage to dig a grave, bury the blonde girl, and that's it. But back in the hotel...
Hello?
Back in the hotel, one of our characters gets a mysterious phone call in her room, and she mysteriously goes out of her room to a payphone, and this is where we get the knife thrower, what is mute, and she's like looking at her, like we get the impression, can she lip read? But not. Stop going blurry! So we got. So one of the characters gets a phone call in the hotel room, and she goes wandering out of the hotel into a payphone, and she gets followed by a couple of girls. Most of the one what's mute, what's quiet, and she's like gives you that hint that she can do lip reading, and but nothing really happens about it really, nothing at all. But we are speculating there's something suspicious about this lady.
And this is Miss Wells.
And she was brought
Her
on
father
this
was the
mission.
cultural attaché there before the colonels decided that he was a spy and told him to go. She knows the country. She's well trained.
Thomas, this is stupid. I'm out of here.
Listen, asshole. I'm sick and tired of your macho crap. You were hired to do a job.
Apologies. Yes, it's a very sad scene. The chemistry them two had together when Sheila died, it's sad. So, apologies again.
So after they dispose all the guards, they go through the funeral of Sheila. Then they get to the rebels, but they've been planting landmines. So we have a scene where they walk into a landmine field. The character, the mute girl, Katrina, steps on a landmine, but don't worry, she gets saved by the other guy. Then this happens.
That was stupid! Piece of pie. Piece of cake, schmuck. You're lucky that fuse went out, baby. You'd be hamburger right now.
Oh, Jesus, Ryan, give him a break. He's a brave guy.
Fuck brave.
So they get to the rebel base, and it's just a few tents, and you're watching them cooking a bit of some chicken or something.
Hey,
and
what did you
they have
expect?
this awful argument.
I'm a hired hand, that's all. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of us are paid to fight other people's wars. Some of us are paid to sleep with pigs like Michael Bartos.
He's more or less Jess's, you know, he's only there to be hired to do the job, you know.
We're all whores, Miss Berry. We just sell it in different ways.
She's
I
like
love this
into
country.
something else.
You love
and
no
it's
one.
like,
You have nothing.
do this.
Nobody gets.
Get some sleep.
I'm not tired.
Pump iron, get tired, get some sleep.
So you're a cynic. What else?
Lady, you getting that?
And then all of a sudden he decides to knock everything over and rip her clothes off and gets a knife and starts. And you get this. And then you get her like hinting that she's wanting something, and he just says, "Jess is this."
Get some sleep.
I'm not tired.
Pump iron, get tired, get some
To help her get to sleep. But then all of a sudden you get this weird rape scene where all our focus was watching drips of sweat dripping off his nose and splashing in her face or whatever it's going. Anyway, all that happens, and now they're moving on to the mission. The mission, they are off to save that guy to get the evolution going.
So this is a good opportunity to end part 1, and hopefully you'll join part 2, the mission.